Thank you all for checking out this week's episode. Once again, I'm John. If you like what you heard and saw today, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and check out our brand new merch store with hats, coffee mugs, t-shirts, other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you all for support. Be safe, and see you next week.
How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spirit Talk, and today we get to welcome the incredible Patricia Tallman to the show. Patricia, actress, stunt woman, author, incredible philanthropist. You may recognize her as Barbara from Night of the Living Dead in 1990, which is arguably one of my favorite horror movies, in her prolific work in sci-fi to include Babylon 5, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Voyager, and another classic too, Army of Darkness, The Possessed Witch. And I think before you jump into like your whole career here, I just want to say thank you for taking the time today. I know you're super busy, especially as the world's opened up and you've got a bunch of other projects you're working on. So again, thank you for the time today.
Hey, thank you for such a lovely introduction. That's very sweet. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
It's so what I kind of every October, so this October coming up, I do a huge thing where it's like I dedicate the whole month to people, whether it's authors, actors, ghost hunters, people in the world of like sci-fi horror, just to kind of, because I love October and Halloween and all that stuff. And so one of my linchpins for this year has been like, well, my favorite movie, because of yourself, Tony Todd, and Tom Towles, Night of the Living Dead, I think I need to have Patricia on the show. So when I reached out, your assistant was super amazing and sending me over a bunch of this stuff and pictures. And it's one of those things, I didn't realize how prolific you really are. Like, I'm so naive to the idea of, in terms of TV shows and movies, I'm well versed in that. But to be an author and do voiceover work, stunt work, to this whole idea we're going to talk about, this Magic Quest thing, this business you started, it's like from a young age, did you kind of get instilled this idea of work ethic, specifically into entertainment industry, with your dad being in the industry himself?
Yes, I think that a lot of people can relate who are listening. I was born in the 50s, and there is this, and I can't speak to young people today, but I think that when we were kids, in order to feel like you deserved anything, any success in life, you had to work. You had to work hard, and you kind of had to suffer, right? It was part of the mindset back then. And so working hard was a virtue, and not that it's not a virtue today. I'm just saying that it was really, really prevalent back then. And as a woman, not only are you supposed to work hard, you are not supposed to talk about it. You're supposed to suffer quietly. You're supposed to make sure everyone's taken care of before yourself, and to always be pretty. that was it. It was like, that's it. You don't have an identity beyond what you do and how you serve. That's it. And then, of course, being pretty, if you could be pretty. It was a very weird, trippy thing to now look back at and to realize, because I think we all think we have to suffer in order to deserve anything, and that's just simply not true.
Right. It's mostly too work. I had parents that raised me to work hard and appreciate as you accomplish stuff, whether it's goals you have or deadlines, whatever it is you're searching out to do, and you get to that point, you accomplish it, the sense of pride you have. It's cool talking to someone where it's like, especially I have younger sisters and a lot of friends who have younger siblings too, and they look at some of the stuff we do now. It's like, I don't get that. Why are you doing that to get this? I can just do this now. It's like this idea of entitlement to just wanting to receive stuff instead of putting the work in.
Here's the thing. I'd love to hear what you think. Maybe we're looking at it backwards. It's not so much, and yes, we need to take pride no matter what odd job you might have to make a living. You should have some integrity around that. Like, do the best you can at this thing for now, whether it's flipping burgers or, I cleaned houses. I mean, you got to do whatever you got to do, but you should do it with some sort of sense of pride. And that has to do with your self-worth. But there's this other piece that maybe if we had been taught to, instead of just having a job to be good little workers, if we were taught to look inside what drives us, what gets us really excited, what turns our hearts and souls on, because then if you've got that in front of you, you're inspired every day. You get jazzed around what you're doing. You want to get up and you want to succeed, and you want to make this thing happen because you've got your why out in front of you, instead of just, well, I get to work in a bank because that's a good job and I should be grateful I have that job. But it's soul sucking to me.
It's the idea, right? No, it's like for me, so I work in the security business, so I do a bunch of like tours and red carpet stuff and all this crazy
awesome.
high-end crap. And I do it because it's my passion. I love what I do. And there's people in my industry that do it because it's a 9-to-5 job and pays the bills, which I do not take away from those people. It serves a purpose. At least do your job and get paid. The people I gravitate towards those are the people, no matter what their business or background is, they have a passion and they're always trying to get better in it every day than they were the day before, searching for that passion or just trying to achieve and maintain that love you have in what you do. And for someone like you to still have that passion going on how many decades now in all different mediums in the entertainment industry, it's super refreshing to see there's people still out there that are always still chasing their dreams.
I believe that we were born to have certain desires and that we're meant to pursue that. It's not that we have to be worth it. It's not that you have to suffer. It's about that, whatever that is is your passion. And it might shift a little bit, like, you love your job right now and you've got this great podcast, so you're feeding your soul on kind of different levels. If you were doing that, you're serving a purpose. The world needs you to be the best you. That there's nobody else like you. Nobody. And we need you to be you.
Did you find your sense of passion or maybe even purpose change through the course of the pandemic? Specifically at the beginning, where now it's like you have to kind of change course. You couldn't really do movie or TV stuff, but maybe I could write more books, or maybe I could start this magic quest, or like there's, so for you to kind of adapt on the fly like that, you had to. Like you could not be yourself and still that just stay stagnant to play the woe is me card.
You're exactly on it. Can I just let any words fly? Or
there's nothing gets censored here.
Because I do have a sailor mouth, but
I picked up on that.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to the stunt industry. Wow. It's such a big topic, and I could talk about this all day. I have my dad was an entrepreneur, so he got it that I needed to follow my passion in these crazy dreams. And of course, my parents were very concerned. Oh, you're going to be an actor. Oh my God, you're going to starve to death, all of that stuff. But they let me do it. They didn't try to stop me. And I think they were kind of amazed by what I was able to do. And then they both passed away. So they died young. And I pursued my acting career. And I love that I have that it still serves me, even though I'm not going for that anymore. I just got 2 voiceover jobs, so weird, but I'm not pursuing that anymore because I've got this other thing that we'll talk about. But I did reach a point where, I guess I was in my 50s, where now I can look back and say and see that I had burnt out, like significantly a burnout process, which I've learned about the brain science behind what happens to you when you burn out. And I had a psychotic break. I just fell apart. Nervous breakdown's the old way of putting it. Now it's called psychotic break. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I didn't understand what people were saying to me. I was just fucking crying all the time. And I lost like 20 pounds in 3 weeks. I was I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. It was weird. And it was very hard. Uh-oh, what is this doing? Something wants to do something. Sorry if my computer does something. We'll figure it out. I just got to a point where I had to hit bottom and then work my way out. Addicts understand this. They know about hitting bottom. And sometimes your bottom is not hard enough and you have to hit it a few times. Luckily, I crashed and burned really, really hard. And so down there at the bottom of this pit, I had to figure out, because I had this son, I'm a single mom, I had to figure out how to keep going, because I had considered, do I just want to end this life? Because it obviously sucks dramatically. Yeah. Why am I doing this anymore? It sucks. and that, but I had my son and I wouldn't do that to him. So I started, it was 10, maybe a little more years ago. So all these online things we have now, we did not have. However, there were a few entrepreneurs that were out there, personal development people, if you want to think like Tony Robbins, but not Tony. Yep. Although I love Tony, I think he's amazing. There were women. And so I started to find free things online to just listen to. I had one friend who had become a minister, and she talked about the miracle of having this, my brain just shut off. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, people search they want to have these epiphanies, and you're having it completely right now. And to me, it didn't feel like that. It just felt like the world lost me. I couldn't make sense out of it anymore. I got really clear that my best efforts had got me in that pit of despair. So I obviously knew nothing. And I became really teachable. I love this word, humility. Humility doesn't mean being a doormat. Humility, the roots of the word humility go all the way down into being earthy, being of the earth. Being humble means being real. It means being teachable. It means just opening up and listening. And so I started to do that because I had no other choice. I grew up, like we were talking about just 10 minutes ago, I grew up working really, really hard, thinking I had to know everything, thinking I had to figure it out on my own, that I couldn't get outside help, because that just wasn't the mindset for those of us growing up in the Chicago area or maybe the Midwest. I'll only speak for myself, but that's what was going on for me as a kid. So as an adult, I took on the burden of everything and everybody, and I wanted to help everything and everybody. And it just broke me. So what I'm doing now completely relates to what I learned over these past 10 years. I studied with people. I read constantly. I found mentors. I invested in courses and in mentorship, and started to rebuild. And all along the way, I never ever saw where I was going to go, because my only desire and my only self-worth came from being an actor. But somewhere in those 10 years, earlier into the 10 years, I realized that being an actor wasn't doing it for me anymore. It's a great thing to do, no question. And my best friends are actors and still doing it, and that's fantastic. But for me, something about it wasn't serving. And I think part of it was that I was always struggling for money, being a single mom, raising a boy, wanting to have the best for them in Los Angeles. It was tough to make ends meet. And so, and we'll talk a little more about this too, if you like, but I always had to have like a side hustle to keep money coming in during gaps between the acting career. In my book, I talk about what we make as actors. It's not what people think. It's not at all what people think. So my dad was an entrepreneur. So I already had a bit of an example out in front of me that you can do these other things and find something that will work. It's taken me till now. And so what I'm trying to do now is to share what I've learned, what worked, what didn't work. Most of it didn't work. What does work? And how do we get there faster? I don't want people to have to fucking suffer for a decade to figure out what they're doing. The key is to understand your brain, to get a handle on this fear. I call it a fear dragon, and to understand that it's just part of your life. People used to think I was fearless because I'm a stunt woman, but nobody's fearless unless you're crazy. You're not fearless. That's dumb. Fear is just as big a part of you as your sexuality, your drive, your big, massive, loving heart. Fear is a piece of you. It must be. So how do we work with it? Instead of pretending it's not there, we shove it aside, we pretend it's not there. And that doesn't.
And it's so fascinating to me because I had in my own, I mean, I take a ton of notes for each episode, and in my head on the paper, I had questions written down or just topics, ideas. And it's fascinating to me because, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone like me that's a fan of what I see on the screen, whether it's my favorite horror movie or my favorite sci-fi show, or man, you really kicked ass as Laura Dern in Jurassic Park. You did all the cool shit, or you did one of my favorite stunts of all time, Gina Davis, Long Kiss Goodnight, that cliff scene, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But as I hear you talk now, it's interesting to hear someone where your actual purpose in life right now is to maybe talk about what you went through to help people, like you said, not go through 10, 15 years of despair, but find that purpose before you get to the bottom of it, or keep hitting the bottom. It's really cool to hear you talk about that and be unabashedly yourself in talking through that process.
Yes, it goes back to what we were first talking about, is understanding sort of what turns you on, what gets you excited. As children, we do it automatically. We automatically just delve into these worlds in our minds, and we create. We're so open, and we create. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to. Everybody is doing, when they get to do what they love, they're doing a version of what they did when they were a child. I absolutely became an actor and did it with my dolls. I did it on my feet with my cousins. We put on plays. We wrote songs. We had no fear about that. There was no judgment. We didn't care. We were just having a blast. And it's not until, as I kept going, I kept wanting to do that. And I'm glad I did. It was a great foundation. But what I didn't learn was how to keep listening to that inner guidance system that we all have. And I started to, plus it was, that the entertainment industry is really rough. You guys have heard some things about that with the Me Too movement, and everybody's Me Too'd. May I tell you, everybody, if I don't care what you look like, everyone has been in our generations, at least, have been asked to perform sexual favors for a job, or put up with an enormous amount of brutality on jobs. It's a part of the industry. So I'm glad, it's very necessary that all this shit hit the fan. But so it's a tough environment to be in, and to stand up for yourself, which wasn't encouraged, obviously. Jobs are not in your control. You're given a job. Just think about that. And when I've been given a job. I spent $100,000 being educated as an actor. I work my ass off. I've got all this experience, and you're giving me the job. You should be fucking worshiping the fact that I'm here. Not that that we're all here and working and showing up with our integrity. It's just like, if I had put the effort into my own business that I put into my acting career, I would be a multi-million-dollar business owner now. It's a really interesting thing being an artist, and all artists know what I'm talking about. You're either working for free, or you're working for pennies, or occasionally you get a payday, which is really great, but you paying off debt with that. It's really interesting. It's really interesting.
How did you gravitate? I mean, obviously your work is so prolific in the science fiction horror. I mean, Chasing Dinosaurs, George A. Romero, and even the cult status of Babylon 5, and likewise. How did you gravitate towards that type of genre of entertainment? Is this kind of tied into kind of your upbringing and kind of what you just talked about, where it's some of that darkness kind of seeps through into these roles?
Yeah, I think you asked really good questions. It goes back to, there has to be a correlation between the fact when I was in the single digits playing with Barbies and Francies with my cousins, and we played Star Trek. We played Dark Shadows.
Oh, Barnabas Collins.
Yeah. I mean, the original series, right? So it was, and we would make costumes out of, nothing. Sometimes I used aluminum foil from gum wrappers to make Star Trek costumes for my dolls. So it would have that flair. And I mean, We did that with our dolls, and then we did that on our feet. We got on our feet and we would play act in our rooms, and we'd dress up and we would be in dark shadows and we'd make up storylines. So it can't be a mistake that somehow I've ended up in science fiction and horror. It can't be. All that energy that I put into that when I was small, come on. And then the other thing we did, like I said, we would write songs and put on, create like little mini musicals or commercials or something. And I'd pretend I was Twiggy. You guys don't remember Twiggy, but, and another big piece of my career was in musical theater. Like, so it really does. If you look back to what you love to do, there's something about that. And you don't have to make it a career. You just need to make it sure it's part of your life. That will be fulfilling enough. And then if you've got to wait tables or clean houses, as I did, you're okay, because you still have this thing that you get to love and contribute doing.
Growing up, I mean, I remember I would watch Predator or RoboCop or Rambo or Terminators, and my parents were really cool like that. They're like, hey, like obviously there's bad language and stuff in here, but you know what? If you have a question, we'll answer it for you, whatever. And so, but as I got older, I would always watch RoboCop and Night of the Living Dead 1990 a ton. And so when I was younger, I'd always resonate with Nancy Allen's character, the female cop in RoboCop, and your character, Night of the Living Dead. And I was always like, oh, they're my favorite female characters. They're the best. Like, they just kick ass. But as you get older, I'm kind of like, why am I saying female characters? They're just great characters, and they're great heroes in the worlds they're in. And it's like, you were able to turn, I mean, and again, that movie with Tom Savini, like everything about that movie is just, it's better than the original. I might catch some slack there. I just love the fact it's a cult classic, but you were able to turn a character like that. Like, how much of Barbara is Patricia in terms of, like, is there any similarities between the characters? Like, how would you react in that type of scenario where there's zombies and your Johnny just attacked you with a gravestone? Like how are you similar to that character?
You had a whole bunch of good stuff in what you just said. So may I just first of all say that the 1968 original was great for that time.
100%.
I mean, it was amazing at that time. And Judy O'Day, she was amazing at that Barbara. That was the trope for women. If you go into fight, flight, or freeze, she went into freeze. That's what happens. But for our version, when we were going to remake this, and Tom let me know, I knew him from school. Tom was a teacher at Carnegie Mellon, and I heard through the grapevine, and then Tom himself, that they were remaking Night of the Living Dead. It was for copyright reasons.
Yes.
But he said, hey, what do you think about playing Barbara? And I said, no, what? No, there's not a bone in me that could do what Judy did. Not a bone in me. And he said, no, read the script. And then I read the script. I was like, oh, okay. And I still had to audition, because it wasn't just Tom making these decisions. There's a group of producers and George, and there's investors, and everyone has to sign off. It's, casting by committee. So Marty Schiff had videotaped me in a scene while we were in Los Angeles. So anyway, that's how I got the part. I wouldn't have been interested in playing that Barbara, and I don't think Tom would have asked me if that Barbara was still. Right. He would have found the right person. He knew me at school. We were in a lot of physical classes together, like stage combat, and he knew that I had that edge to me. So he really thought that I had a good look, kind of like Bambi with a gun, and then, then transforms. And I love that. You also mentioned, what about if you would rise to the occasion like this? If there was a zombie apocalypse, we'd all like to think that we would, but nobody really knows,
right?
So I love that Barbara starts off as just a normal lady, mousy, with an annoying brother, just having some grief in their life and trying to cope. And then this shit happens, and Johnny dies, and now Barbara's freaking out, and I don't rise to the occasion at all right away. Right. So it takes a while for her to start to get into gear. And even then, I think that you can see in the film, just before Tony arrives, that we're not sure she's going to make it, right? I mean, she might have killed that big old zombie, but she looks like she's losing it. And Tony, I think Tony and I were such a good team because he's
perfect.
So the hero, you know, he's so the big, strong, strapping hero, and I was so the mousy little thing. And then together, we really solved problems. And then we kind of switched places, where I had to become a hero, and he lost it and died. So I hope no spoilers for those of you who haven't maybe seen the movie.
Hopefully everyone has seen this by now. Oh, it's you talk about that switch of characters. What I love about that movie is you see, I mean, obviously this is all scripted, it's all whatever, but the idea that a leader changes through the course of a 90-minute film where you roles reverse, and it's like it's weird or kind of crazy seeing in real time a leader rise up and kind of a leader kind of loses cool. From the beginning to the end of the film. It's again, it just everything about that movie, the social commentary on it, it's just super rad. It's just awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm really lucky that I got to do that. It was the kind of, I've always wanted to be an action hero, but I wanted to be an action hero that where you see somebody develop into that, like you have to rise to the occasion. Yep. And that was exactly what I got to do.
The other kind of iconic horror, you played like this possessed witch in the Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi. Obviously with your stunt background and stuff, but when it comes to like the prosthetics and makeup, is that for me as the viewer, it's like this must be such a rush. Like I would love to play that type of character because it's crazy makeup, it's over the top violence.
Yeah.
How fun is that for you to really become that character? Like what is Sam like, hey, put this makeup on and make this character your own?
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to Sam much off the set. He's a very busy guy. I worked with K&B Effects, you know, Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger. Oh, yeah. I still adore. And they actually helped me get that part. I was really hungry. I was broke, and I called them up and I said, do you have anything? You know, is there anything going on? And they said, well, actually, we're doing this movie and we have to build all these deadites, and you're skinny and tall. So can you come over? We'll cast your body and we'll build the deadites on you. So I got a day rate for that. I came into the warehouse and they laid me out in a unitard and my arms and legs spread out, and they put plaster all over me. You know, it was like one of those things. And then they built a dummy of just my body, and they built in the different deadite parts that became puppets, and also that became they put on people like the stunt team, and they put me in the stunt team so that they were able to kind of push me in there. So I was a deadite as well. And Bill Moseley became my general, you know. Yep. It was fun. And then they said, there's this part. They called me up later and said, hey, there's this part. We can probably get you an audition. I said, audition for, okay, whatever. You know, I just did a lead in a movie, but all right, I'll audition for a witch. So I had to audition for Rob Tapert, and I didn't really know what I was auditioning for. It's not like they give you a script. So he kind of talked me through into what this creature was, and I just went bananas, and I'm like humping the carpet and just going, and I didn't know what else to do, honestly. And I left that audition going, oh my God, if I don't get this part, I'll be so humiliated. Thank God I got it. But yeah, and then so all the makeup, right? The makeup, it's a double-edged sword because it's incredibly uncomfortable. You know, it was 4.5 hours to get into that. And it was also wardrobe. So now I had my hands and my arms up to all done with these scraggly nails. And then I had a bodysuit on with a hump, you know, and it snapped down at the crotch. So I couldn't pee and I couldn't do anything because of my hands. And I was in this, I couldn't really eat, you know. I was in that for like 18 hours. It was miserable. And then on the set, they crammed the contact lenses into your eyes. It took 3 guys to hold me down and put the lenses in my eyes. It was awful. We also did, I think it was like 18 squib hits, which are the exploding bags of blood that to represent every time Bruce shot me with
Yep.
his sawed off, Betsy, whatever you called it. But it was fun being that over the top. You have all that makeup on. You have to be really big in order for anything to be
Right.
seen through it. You know, Andreas Katsulas on Babylon 5 used to say that his full face makeup as Jakar made him a better actor. Because he always thought he was too big as a theatrical actor, but with all that makeup on it, he was just right.
Right.
So it was really fun. And Sam just, he would egg us on when he was doing, he was talking to the Deadites out on the desert in our night shoot. He'd be on his megaphone saying, all right, you scum of the earth, and he would just go like, yeah, now you're just, it's like, get as gross as you can, get out there, you're gonna go get the good guys. He did the same with me as the witch. All right, now you're like, you're gonna have your eyes pop open. He was so clear on what he wanted. And when it came to the very end, I mean, Bruce had been shooting me every which way with the gun.
Yep.
And now we had the hero shot at the end. And he said, Sam goes, they've had all these Deadites die. So he was like, just come up with something great. Well, it's, like I said, 18 hours in this makeup without being able to eat or pee. And I was just covered in holes by this point, through this. And Bruce basically just turns around over his shoulder, doesn't even look at me. So the only thing I could think of was to fall flat forward on my face. And that's what I did. And they loved it. They loved it so much. My favorite part was, I can't remember exactly what Sam said, but he said, I just want this. I want to see you just reel up and then go for him. And so I did that. I felt like a Looney Tunes cartoon with the big rearing back and the claws out and going for it. It was really fun. That part was really fun.
When it comes to the stunt work, specifically the Laura Dern stuff at Jurassic Park or Gina Davis, it must help that you're actually an actress yourself, right? So not only can you do the stunt, but you actually know from an actor's standpoint how you're going to fall, because you are the one falling, obviously. But if you could talk about the stunt work specifically for that and the importance of the trust that comes with someone like Laura and you being on the same page during the filming of a movie like that.
Oh, I loved working with Laura so much. She's amazing. She's amazing, Hollywood royalty, but she's still very normal and very grateful, just appreciative all over the place. I think it helped as an actor to be able to, usually when you're shooting a stunt, you shoot everything up until the stunt. And then the stunt person comes in and does the stunt. And then if it requires the actor to come back in and then finish out the scene or whatever. So the stunt might be kind of in the middle of a scene of action. And so I need to watch my actor, see how they're physicalizing whatever they're doing. I have to step into that and continue their physicalization while doing the stunt. And yes, you have to know how you're going to get out of it so that they can get into it, right? And continue on their way. So it is really fun I love that. I love the problem solving of that, of figuring out what's going to be best. Sometimes you discuss it with the actor. Most of the time you don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, often your actors are at least the ladies I was doubling, they're big stars, and so they're not even on the set. They finish what they're doing. They go off for legitimate reasons. They might need to be touched up. They might have another scene. They might have a meeting. We don't know. But so then I have to show them when they come back where we ended up. Now we know what you're going to do now. So, but Laura watched. She was on the set for a bit. Shooting that, especially the rotunda scene. That took a couple of days. It was a long ass shoot, and usually stunts are done in part of a day, not a whole day. This took like we were week planning, and it was a lot, because they have all these effects. They're going to put in the dinosaurs later. All the raptors and the T-Rex came in later. We never saw those guys. So they had to make sure they knew exactly where we were in order for them to plug in the dinosaurs where they needed to do that. I just would like to say that when we were shooting the original Jurassic Park, we didn't know what Jurassic Park was. We didn't know.
Wow.
Right? We don't know. Our stunt coordinator had a bag, and he would sit, like we did this scene with the T-Rex, right? With the T-Rex chasing the Jeep, and Jeff Goldblum's been injured. So we're in the jungle in the middle of the night, and he pulls out, okay, we have Matchbox cars. Here's the Jeep. It's a little Matchbox cars. And here's your little plastic dinosaur. And he goes, okay, then the Jeep goes through this and breaks through then the T-Rex is going like this. And we're like, okay, we're playing with our dinosaurs and Matchbox cars in the dirt, trying to figure out the scene. We didn't know. We saw storyboards, which were hand sketched, that had the dinosaurs drawn in, but it didn't look like anything. And then on the, let's see, was it the Rotunda Day? No, I don't even think it was. I was on the set for some other reason, maybe a costume fitting, and there I was watching. Oh yeah, and I was watching the raptor scene with when they're in the big kitchen, the commercial kitchen, and the raptor puts his head down and lifts up the big sheet of plastic. There's some plastic.
Yep.
And the children, I think, are hiding, if I'm remembering this correctly. It was a long time ago, kids. So the dinosaur was a practical dinosaur. This raptor, for the most part, was created by the effects team, and they had him all roboed. He was a robot, so his head moved, his eyes moved, his mouth moved. The poor guy in the suit had his arm strapped to the side. He had an earpiece in there, and he could take direction, but he couldn't see anything, because he was the neck of the dinosaur. The head was, 1.5 to 2 feet above him. So he was just in this fucking suit. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Claustrophobia. But it looked amazing, except if you got down past like the knees, then you see, this poor guy's hairy legs sticking out, and he's wearing Nikes. So that's what we, kind of ruined the illusion. Whenever you see the dinosaur's feet, that's CGI. That's not a real person. But watching that was amazing, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. But we had no idea that until we sat in the movie theater, and it was just like, oh, what? That was crazy.
It's just mind blowing. When did you realize that? Obviously, with the Star Trek and Babylon 5, that fandom is so rabid.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that your time in there, those 5 years, wherever, obviously it kind of was, you talk about in your book, when did you realize that this fan base is something that's going to stick with you and support you? And obviously that's kind of connected to like the charity work with Penny Lane, like how they're able to raise over $350,000 or so far, where it's like, when did you realize that fan base not only appreciates what you do, but they appreciate as the character, but as you, as the Patricia, as the individual, like they're going to support you, everything you do moving forward?
I still have to like pinch myself that I'm in there at all. Of course I knew about Star Trek because I was a Star Trek fan.
Right.
And I was lucky enough, let's see. So Star Trek came first for me. I ended up on the Star Trek stunt team through the amazing Dennis Matalone, who was our stunt coordinator on The Next Generation. And I doubled all the guest star ladies because I was a good size for that, being tall and in those days thin. And I had a uniform in every color and wardrobe, depending on whatever stunt was required of me. And that was a blast, but I didn't think that I was going to be what's the word, like included in the fandom because of that, because first of all, they don't even know I'm there, I'm somebody else. And if I am visible, I've got some sort of alien on my face. So, I just didn't think that I would ever be able to reap the benefits of that, or it wasn't even on my radar, to be honest. And while I was doing that, Babylon 5 came forward and Deep Space Nine was in development. So our stunt team was moving over to, was going to be doing both shows. And Michelle Forbes, who had been on Next Generation as Ensign Ro, was going to be Nana Visitor's character, was going to be that character. They were going to move her over, but she turned down the opportunity. So they hired Nana Visitor. And we didn't know about Nana first. I heard, because I was Michelle's stunt double, and I was thrilled to have, oh, now I'm going to have a more regular gig. But then she turned it down. And I was like, no, no, God, oh, so close. But and then Nana turned out to be even a better fit for me. You know, we had the same hair. It was crazy. We're very, very similar and became really good friends. I'm still good friends with her. And Babylon 5 came forward, and I didn't think I'd get that part either. Yeah, and luckily I did. So I did write about that in the book. It was, I think my journey is an actor's journey. It's, you know, I'm never that famous. I'm never, you know, I'm just a working actor, journeyman actor. With this, my side hustle is the stunt job, and that took me into things that the fans seem to really like to know about. So I'm happy to share that. I also share, you know, you see my contracts, you see how much I was paid, you know, you get the kind of the scoop of what that's like, and raising a kid on your own. It's just this, and I worked on things like Jurassic Park and Star Trek Generations, the movie, and all of that in between the seasons of Babylon 5. I would be on the set of Babylon 5 one day, and then stunt doubling for Terry Farrell the next. That just, and not talking about it. You know, I wasn't going to tell my producers on Babylon 5. I also was not going to turn down a job. You just didn't do that. You just never knew when the next job was coming along. And I never talked about it. Star Trek, of course, you know, nobody really cared because I'm in costume and you just do your job. The stunt team, we know each other, you know. Dennis might know, as my coordinator, I'd say, look, I'm supposed to wrap on Babylon 5 by noon so I can be here. But just know I'm coming from another job. And he's like, right, on the down low. Okay, we got to know nobody's talking about it. So, but in fact, I was working on Deep Space Nine when we were having a premiere screening of the first episode of Babylon 5 in a movie theater at the Television Academy. And I showed up like, you know, an hour and a half late because I was doubling Terry Farrell and I had a job. I had to do that. Snuck in the back. I'm just trying to pretend like everything's all right. Yeah, because my contract probably, the producers would have said I couldn't do it because what if I got hurt, kind of thing.
Right.
But of course.
How has it been now with your son, I believe Julian, correct? As he's gotten older and seen you go through the career changes and you again keep finding your passion. Is what if he approached you and was like, hey, I honestly I want to do stunts, or maybe I want to do acting stuff. Like, is your approach to this your son telling him, hey, maybe read my book a couple of times, but you know, like, how do you guide someone, or maybe one of his friends is like, hey, I want to do this. Hey, your mom did all this stuff. I want to talk to her. How vital is it for you to be truthful and be like, hey, whether it's the Me Too stuff or the business side of stuff, or hey, protect your best interests. Like, how do you navigate that world where maybe that his passion is going to be entertainment, but how do you tell him, be like, hey, just be careful in your kind of way?
Right. That, again, a really good question. Julian is, you know, watched me go through all the things that you and I have talked about. And it's not been easy on him. He is a musician and an artist, so he already has his own version of that. I see him, and you know, I'm just speaking from my observation, and he might say it differently, but I think that he would like to do his own thing and not be doing my thing. And gotcha. I'm not exactly sure why, but I also know that it's really important to him to have his own identity. and not just be my kid. He did go to a lot of Comic-Cons with me, San Diego, or, I took him on the road quite a bit. So as a small person, he saw what was going on, and maybe people would say, things to him about being my son. And so he, somewhere in him, wanted to be his own person. He is very entrepreneurial though, because we never had any money, and he had to figure it out. If he wanted to have money, he sold stuff on eBay when he was like 11. He's known how to do that, create things and sell it, or find things and upgrade it and sell it. And he's known how to do that since he was a kid. And he started his own business pre-pandemic. He called it Tall Man, Small Van. And he and his dad bought a small van, and he would drive small bands on tour all over Canada and the United States. And he'd be basically their tour manager. So he'd manage everything and just handle it. It was crazy. And then of course the pandemic,
right,
to shut all that down. Now he's doing sound design. And so he's like me in that, or he's his own person, has it in him that he just creates his own. He figures out what he's good at, what he likes to do.
The major thing that I want to talk to you about is when your agent sent over the thing, and I was unaware the Quest retreats, like when I briefly read the bio on it, I was kind of like, sign me up today, or sign me up yesterday. It's like, how'd you is this again kind of an extension of this fantasy type world you grew up playing in, where now it's like real life? Like, how'd you kind of settle on this Quest retreat idea?
I feel like you're just amazing how insightful you are. It's really, I want you to know that you ask really good, deep questions, and you're on it. You're on it. That's exactly what it was. So while I was recreating myself, and a lot of people go through this. So there's actual coaching out there for this. People lead workshops on this, how to sort of recreate yourself. Sometimes they call it following your passion. I think that's gotten a little trite, maybe because we hear it all the time. It does ring true. I mean, you do want to do something that it inspires you, right? And you want to feel like you're doing something for others. I'm being really honest here, but one of my biggest goals was to make money. I needed to make money. I was tired of being broke. I was tired of being so bloody stressed, so stressed. So I kind of came up with what do you call that? Like it's almost like I had several different things going on. One of them being a way to make money. First, and I had to keep going. So while you're developing your business, you still need to be paying the bills, the same number of bills. So you can't just, start completely over and wing it. I don't know, most people can't do that. We don't have the savings to do that, or you don't want to dip into your savings to do that. I didn't have any savings, nothing. I was bottomed out. So I came up with ways to make money, and that's a whole conversation into itself. But while I was doing that, the coaching I was receiving helped me to go back to the things that I loved. And what did I love? Like many of us, many of your listeners, many you and I, we love these stories, don't we? We love these movies. We love these TV shows. We love these books. And I spent, I can't even imagine how many hours I spent as a kid reading these books, reading the science fiction books. I loved fantasy like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Had Harry Potter been around? I mean, I loved Harry Potter more than my son, but I read them all to him. Those kinds of worlds that where it felt like good and evil were well defined. And you kind of knew where you stood. And now we don't know anymore. So confusing, right? Those worlds meant so much to me, and I've always loved travel. My grandparents took me to trips to Europe when I was a teenager with my cousin, and just I loved going to places where things were so old. in the United States, we, if something's 100 years old, we're like, ooh, there's
Yeah.
3,000 years old, just like, what? It's like, what? It's amazing. So, I mean, part of what I came up with is what I loved. I love feeling like I was in that kind of world and adventure, like magic still existed. And I don't just mean magic like you wave a wand in Harry Potter, but I mean, just you feel things are aligning for you. You feel things are exciting and mind-blowing. I wanted to feel awe. I wanted to feel inspired. I started with that. How do I want to feel? I didn't even know how I wanted to feel. I knew I had such a sense of duty and such a sense of responsibility that how I wanted to feel had nothing to do with that. It was, I think a lot of people can relate to this, right? You mean you want to feel good. You want to feel respected. You want to feel like an honorable person. And the way to do that is dictated by society, for better or for evil. Like I said, you're expected to work really hard, work yourself to the bone. You expect to suffer. That's just part of life, right? That's part of life.
Yeah.
In order to get you have to suffer. What? Who said that? Why? Why? Shit's tough enough. Why do we want to expect to suffer? So I wanted to be open-hearted again, instead of feeling so closed off and terrified all the fucking time, just terrified of what's coming next. What shoe is going to drop now? And to feel that freedom, to me, that word became really big. Freedom. Because if I felt free, I wouldn't have money worries. That would be part of it. That would be part of the freedom. I also wanted to feel cherished, not just loved, cherished. Like somebody actually put me first for the first time in my life, other than my mom. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like somebody wanted the best for me and love. I wanted to feel that way. Maybe somebody did. I just didn't know how to feel it. And, to feel, I wanted to respect myself. I wanted to have that kind of confidence, just a gentle confidence, not aggressive. I don't need that. I just want to feel good where I'm at right now, always. And to have a sense of, I can take care of myself. Whoa, that alone. Like I don't have to worry about taking care of myself. So I had some of these words out in front of me that helped me to start to define what I needed to feel right now.
Right.
Those words change as you accomplish things, and as you get more grounded and steady, you can start to feel different things. But those things needed to happen first. So I had to find a way to make money. I needed to believe that the universe was basically a benevolent place instead of constantly knocking me down. And what I started to do, I started a whole program. I have a community, and this is what I lead and I guide people to, is that if you can align yourself, if you can start to figure your mind out and understand how your mind works. I'm all about the brain science. I love this stuff. Shit starts to happen for you. I was working on this process, and you don't even have to be good at it, and it'll start to work. And I got a phone call. I'm standing there looking out my back. I'm freaking out. How am I going to pay the bills? I got to pay the mortgage this month. My little cell phone rings, pick it up. And this lady goes, "Hi, my name's Jacqueline Easton. I run Babylon 5 Books. Joe Straczynski said I should call you. We need some photos to be more fan friendly. And he said you were really annoying on the set with your camera. So I was wondering if you had some photographs." And I have boxes of photographs. And Joe was exactly right. I was completely annoying with my camera backstage before we had camera phones, before we had cell phones, right? This is the 90s, right?
Yep.
So her editor came over, and that's how Pleasure Thresholds happened.
Crazy.
I ended up writing a whole fucking book. I didn't want to. I'm not a writer. This was very uncomfortable for me, but the universe was like, "No, this will solve so many problems for you." And I promised I would say yes. I'm just going to say yes to opportunities. I had a friend call and say, "Hey, do you have a handyman? I want this room painted. I'll pay $1,000. I went, "I'll be right over." I don't know how to paint a room. The universe put that in front of me though. So I'm going to go do it. I made $1,000 cash that day. That kind of stuff kept happening. If I stayed in the flow and stopped doubting myself and just being grateful for everything that came in. it really started to, I couldn't believe it. That's what I mean by magic. And when you realize that that's actually in your control, because for me, my whole life was never in my control.
Right.
To realize that there actually was something I could do. What? And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally align myself with what I learned how to do. It's really amazing. So that's part of what, I know it's a long way to get to my travel business, but one of the things I realized was travel, how much I love travel. Right. The other thing was the stories we loved, how all that came together. I don't know what this means. And I'm really good. I have a mutant power of being able to take care of people and surprise people. I love doing this, and I know I'm good at it. How did the Venn diagram of that, how did that come together? But I was being coached as if you fill in these blanks. What are you really, really good at? What do you love? How do you want to feel? What are these elements and what comes together? And I was looking at the middle of this going, I'm not sure. And then I went on a retreat where we were writing. I'm writing another book. This book has been sitting in a drawer for 10 years, but anyway, or 8 years now. And I went to go write this book on this retreat. And I saw all the things that this guy who was running the retreat did wrong. I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. Why didn't you have this? Why didn't you do this? What's this? Why everyone's feeling, I thought I could do this in a heartbeat. So I came back from that experience kind of going, oh, maybe this is a thing. And when I did that, I got invited to go to Hawaii for a convention. So I jumped all over that, like, whoa, yeah. Of course. And then, I was on that trip. This is all the same year. While I was on that convention trip, which was a week or whatever it was, they had all these excursions, adventure excursions you could do, but they had no one coordinating it. And so we would all line up to go on this adventure, like a zip line or whatever. And there's nobody coordinating it because everyone's working at the con. They're all really working really hard. And it was sort of nebulous and falling apart. And so at the end of that, I went, I could run this for you. And they were like, yes, please run this. And so this is what I need. This is what I need. This is what I need. And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And I said, and let's put a celebrity on every one of these excursions. And they went, yep, okay. And I just fucking figured it out. I had to figure it out as I went, but it went really well. It was an enormous amount of work, but I had so much fun with it. I got to go to Hawaii, could do it again. 2015, I did it again. And that started the quest retreats. And I thought, well, if I can do it here, what else do I want to do? So I did one in London. I've done like 5 in Hawaii. I did one in London. I did one in New Zealand. The New Zealand one was my biggest. I was so excited about this one because the Lord of the Rings and those movies. Oh yeah. Oh my God. So I got myself to a convention in New Zealand. And once, because they paid for the airfare and I made some cash there, I rented a car and I just drove the country and went to every place they shot stuff that I could get to. Yep. And figured out a trip. So, and then talked to all the vendors and put it together. And I tried all of these excursions. I tried this boat ride out. I tried this Lord of the Rings tour here and this Lord of the Rings tour. And this guy came out of the blue and said, I want to meet with you and talk to you. I run these kind of things. I said, okay. Kind of aggressive. All right. Sits down, he talks to me. I'm not sure I like him actually, and he leaves and he said, you have to charge more. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? I got it out. Of course, I ended up working with him and love him. He's amazing. I hired him. He was our guide the whole time. He's also totally passionate about Lord of the Rings. His name is Mike Stern. And we created an amazing 16-day trip, start to finish. I'm leading one in Africa in December now. And it filled up in 5 days. It's my most expensive trip yet. But everything's cared for. You step off the plane, I pick you up. You don't have to worry about a thing for the rest of the time. It's all taken care of. So that's what I like to do is it's very high end, but it's really, you're safe. You're not going to waste your time trying to figure out where to go, because I've already done all that. And we're only going to do the best of the things, and then have fun in between. Because what I want to do is weave in the magic, weave in putting yourself into this mindset. Drop who you are. Well, forget it. You're no longer Patty Tallman. You're no longer that person. Now you're whoever you want to be right now, having this experience.
It's growing up as a kid. Like I remember reading all like the C.S. Lewis, like Narnia, Lion, Witch, the Wardrobe. But I've always been like, I'd love to live in that world. Or even as you get older, you watch Game of Thrones, and because of my work and traveling security, I've been to a lot of filming locations, sat on the throne. I have seen all over Europe, and I'm just blown away that you could read something or see something on TV and love that world, and the actual idea of stepping foot on that real life battlefield or filming location, you're kind of like, you get kind of whisked away mentally, at least for me, where it's like, holy shit, I am so happy to be in a fantasy world, but here I am in the real world, happy as hell, living, because over here is a dragon, there's a White Walker over here, whatever it is. I was like, here I am standing in a field outside Belfast, and I love that idea, and it's really cool that you were able to kind of combine all your kind of loves into one thing and kind of create this experience that, quite frankly, is super daunting. It's even tough to book a cruise for 10 people, and you're just jumping on a boat and flying there. Now with this, it's like everything's all together. And it's just, so how does someone say you, after Africa sells out, the next one's coming, like, you have a website you want to send people to? Like, how do you go about reaching out to you for that?
My website's really dated right now. We thought we were going to update it for Africa, and that I didn't need to, but it's called questretreats.com. You can go to patriciatallman.com, and we're making a new site there. But thanks for asking. And meanwhile, what I have going, my bread and butter, because I do maybe one trip a year. Like you said, it takes a lot of work, and I want to do it right. So what I'm doing in the meantime is I have a membership group where we work on these topics. It's all about putting the magic back in your life. I call it magical living. And so we have topics every month. We have a brand. I just moved the membership from Patreon over into on a new platform. So it's all self-contained.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then I have a program called the 42 Days of Magical Living, and 42 being, the nerd number, 42 stands for everything. It's 6 weeks. So I take everybody through this 6-week intensive every day. And then we have another 6 weeks in the membership. So you have time to sort of start to put this into your life. And if you want to stay on, you can stay on. But that's what I'm doing right now, is like creating a way that you can live a magical life. You can live this every day. And it doesn't have to be what we were taught as kids. It doesn't have to be that. It's
a unique way to escape kind of the bullshit of the real world, whilst maintaining your time in the real world, but kind of giving yourself the happiness that, I mean, I think one of those things where we deserve to be happy. And it's like, sure, you'll go through some shit or some tough days, but the idea of always finding that happiness, I think, is really cool. If you to kind of put that together for people, because I'm sure a lot of people that do it for the first time, and I'm sure you have people that do it all the time now with you, because it's awesome that first time they get back, they send you a message, like, hey, like, thank you for changing our life. And it's obviously always for the better, because they didn't realize they're missing that magic. And now they can go about and do their jobs, whether it's in business or a stay-at-home mom, or it's just something really powerful to all that.
I think happiness is a result. It's a result of the way you're living your life. So it's not an action you're doing right here, right now. Happiness is a result. You realize that you're living on target. You're living within your values. You're following your desires and your dreams. You have you're learned how to make a living in however it is that are keeping you inspired. Then you turn around, you realize, oh, I'm happy. It's not, so I think we go about happiness kind of ass backwards, and it's a result. So how do we make that happen? And that's what I teach. How you make that.
Just awesome. And I can't thank you enough for jumping on here. It's been awesome. I could go on for another 4 hours, but maybe we'll save that. So before I let you go, I know you're on Instagram, Facebook, and your website, but if people want to reach out to you, check out what you're doing, is there a specific platform that you like that's easier for you to kind of just like post your stuff where people can kind of check out and see what you're doing?
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I think the Instagrams is a really good place. And then the Facebook page is the other place. So yes, please, if you're a Facebook person, it's facebook.com/Patricia Tallman page. And the Instagram would be patriciatallman.rocks.
Rocks, yes.
And I did that because I like rocks. I was just testing out Instagram. I didn't know, back in the day when it started up. And I just was looking I love rocks and crystals. And I don't know what I was, and it just stuck. So that's where it is. We do have Quest Retreats handles, but we'll post that in those two main things. And
awesome. Well, thank you again for your time today. I wish you all the love and success here with everything, and we'll have to do this again soon. So thank you.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me.
How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk. You might not know this, but before I record an episode, I like to break a sweat. And I do that using the Chop Fit. Over the course of the past year, the Chop Fit has allowed me to lose weight, tone up my body, and feel even more amazing about myself. A feeling that you should all feel about yourselves as well. If you use this code, SpearChop10, you get $10 off your order. Once again, use code SpearChop10 for $10 off your Chop Fit order. It'll change your life. Thank you.